Dancy, good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sheila North. Janet Stewart is away. We start with breaking news tonight. Authorities in Saskatchewan say Miles Sanderson has been taken into custody. Sanderson has been charged in the stabbings on Sunday that left 10 people dead. Police located him near Rosthern, Saskatchewan. They say there is no longer a risk to public safety. Meanwhile, family members of some of the victims spoke to the media today. The CBC's Adam Hunter is in Saskatchewan and sends this report. But first, we want to warn viewers that details in this story are distressing.
The mass stabbing attack that left 10 people dead has rocked the community of James Smith Cree Nation. 9 of the victims were from the community, including Mark Arcan's sister, Bonnie Burns. Burns and her adult son, Gregory, were killed on Sunday. Arcan says one of his nephews was stabbed but survived.
How can somebody do this to women and children? Words can't express the pain that we're feeling.
When Arcan received the emergency alert on Sunday morning, he made the 2-hour drive to the First Nation. He discovered that his sister's home was a crime scene.
She was killed by senseless acts. Her son, she was protecting her son. She was protecting these 3 little boys. This is why she's a hero. She's a true matriarch of the First Nations way of living, which is our women take care of our homes.
On Wednesday morning, the coroner service and RCMP released all of the names of the victims. 9 of the 10 are from the James Smith Cree Nation. They range in age from 23 to 78 years old.
Through our family, we have one of our aunties that's been affected by this traumatically, as she's related to 70 of these victims. That was her home community. So you can see the devastation of what this is to our family.
The attack has generated international attention. On Wednesday, Queen Elizabeth sent a message saying, "My thoughts and prayers are with those recovering from injuries and grieving such horrific losses. I mourn with all Canadians at this tragic time." Candlelight vigils are planned in 3 Saskatchewan cities on Wednesday night. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
Once again, the update on the breaking news is that authorities have the main suspect in custody. Saskatchewan RCMP say Miles Sanderson is now in custody. And there is support available for those affected by recent events. The Hope for Wellness helpline is available to all Indigenous people across Canada. Counselors can be reached by phone or online chat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the toll-free number is there on your screen, 1-855-242-3310. Back here in Manitoba, thousands of Manitoba kids are heading back to school. For many, this was the first day of classes. We checked in with kids, parents, and teachers to see how they're feeling. CBC's Alana Cole has that story.
At Faraday School, it's a big day.
I'm kind of nervous.
Why are you feeling nervous?
Because I'm going to be in a new classroom. I'm not going to be with Miss Lecco.
What are you excited for?
See my friends again. I'm excited to see my friends too, because I missed all of them.
These elementary school students are heading back to class. This year, it's back to school with no pandemic restrictions.
It's more good for the kids, then, right, to get out instead of have them inside, so they will be more active and more socialized.
It's just a lot easier with not having to deal with the masks.
Evelyn Lira says her kids are used to wearing masks and kept wearing them when the mandate was dropped, so she packed some.
Right now, I'm not sure if they were going to wear it or not, but I just give them some extra masks inside their bags.
So you guys excited to be here all day today?
There's no doubt the pandemic has been challenging for schools, whether that's remote learning or keeping kids distanced.
The schedule that I've prepared
Russell Antimus says at times his students were split between 2 rooms. He was going back and forth. This year, he's happy to see school activities and clubs getting back to normal.
I run a chess club every year, and being able to do that with multiple classrooms. You tried to do it last number of years, and you had a cohort. Well, you can't have, kids from all over the school participating. It's going to be really nice to get the feel of like a regular school year.
Bringing kids together is something Principal Jennifer Cox is looking forward to.
Building that togetherness piece, that community piece, being able to be together for learning.
And while provincial restrictions are gone, she says they're sticking with some safety protocols, including sanitizing and making sure staff and kids stay home when they're sick.
I kind of call those the silver linings of COVID. It's heightened the way we should have always been doing things.
She says staff have worked hard to make sure day 1 is a positive start. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And it's the first time in 2 years the University of Manitoba is holding in-person classes for all students. CBC's Joanne Roberts reports.
Yes, you too, sweetheart. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Streets around the university are packed with students hurrying to get where they need to be for the first day of classes of the new school year.
It's really kind of overwhelming. It's a lot different than high school, and so I'm kind of just figuring it out as I go.
It's Isaac Nimagata's first day in the Faculty of Science. He says he's ready to start his university experience, and it's important to him that it's in person.
I feel like when I was online, I didn't get that same quality of education, and I don't think I learned as well. So while I'm here, especially now that I'm paying for it, I'd rather get a good university experience.
Many other students say they feel the same, and there's another perk of being back in person.
One of my main goals going into uni is to make a lot of long-lasting connections, so that's really important to me.
It's the whole point of it. That's why we go to uni, to network.
Brandy Usick is the Executive Director for Student Engagement and Success. She's seeing more students than ever getting involved with campus life.
You can tell that they're excited. They're asking about opportunities to connect with other students, how to get involved in different student clubs.
The University of Manitoba is the only post-secondary institution in the province that is still mandating masks indoors. Usick said it was a decision made to protect the community, but not all students are in agreement.
I don't like it. It's just because I was literally the first lecture was so hot and I was wearing a mask and I could not handle it. So I literally every 2 minutes I just had to lift it up.
Despite some students not agreeing with the mask mandate, being with their peers outweighs that. Joanne Roberts, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And besides the U of M, another post-secondary institution that has kept the mask mandate is Booth University College in Winnipeg. And Winnipeg police say a teenage babysitter is recovering from a gunshot wound after taking a loaded gun away from a toddler. It happened at an apartment complex in the Seven Oaks neighborhood Saturday morning. Police say the girl was babysitting the toddler while an adult was asleep in the suite. The toddler got a hold of the loaded gun and was running around the apartment when it went off, striking the babysitter. She was taken to hospital in stable condition with a gunshot wound to her upper body. A 20-year-old woman now faces numerous charges. And Manitoba's Conservative Party appears to be violating its own rules. The party is going too long, more than 2 years, without holding a general meeting. It's got one party member asking if the Tories are hiding from their base. CBC's Ian Fraze reports.
If you're a progressive Conservative Party member who feels your voice hasn't been heard, like Verna Heinrichs, the delay of the party's annual general meeting may sting.
We've extended it more than 2 years. Now to kick the can further down the road doesn't make sense.
Heinrich says some parts of the Tory base feel disgruntled. They don't like that some members never got their ballots for last year's PC leadership race, and some disagree with how the party handled the pandemic.
Yes, there are hurt feelings, but it's also we need to talk about things. Sweeping issues under the rug has not ever made them go away.
Delaying the AGM to April of 2023 appears to violate the PC's constitution, which says the annual meeting can be postponed for a general election, a leadership vote, or any other reason so long as they're held within 24 months of each other. The PCs say they're busy.
First of all, it's not the first time an AGM has been moved in the history of our party. That has happened before.
Premier Heather Stephenson says the focus is on the upcoming by-election in Kirkfield Park, replacing Scott Fielding, who resigned. Political rivals say the delay doesn't speak well of government.
Do you want someone running the healthcare system that can't even abide by the rules that they've set for themselves within their own political party?
One of the defining features of this government in Stephenson as well has been to pretend things aren't happening and to hope that it gets better. And that's not how you actually fix things, especially when it comes to facing down members who might be frustrated.
I spoke with veteran political scientist Paul Thomas, who says this postponement may actually be a good political move. The Tories have had several recent positive announcements, and allowing members to air their grievances now might kill some of that momentum. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
On the municipal election, Winnipeg mayoral candidate Jenny Motkaluk revealed her platform today, her full platform. Her pitch to Winnipeg voters includes plans to cut city spending. CBC's Cameron McLean has more details.
The runner-up in the 2018 election is taking her second shot at the city's top job. She laid out her plan in front of a crowd of supporters today at Kildonan Park Pool. If elected, Motkaluk promised to not increase property tax bills for those making upgrades to their homes. She'd also axe photo radar fines. To make up for the lost revenue, she would freeze wages for city workers making more than $75,000.
I will not increase taxes on struggling Winnipeggers so that we can give raises to civic employees who are already making more than $75,000 a year.
That promise drew a sharp reaction from the leader of the city's largest union. Gord Delbridge called the plan out of touch and unrealistic, given the union's collective bargaining agreement.
We're in negotiations now, and by the time our contract expires, it'll be well past the term of the first term for this mayor. So it's a promise that will not be met.
Motkaluk says she would respect existing contracts, but would make a wage freeze the starting point in any new negotiations. Her supporters applauded when she said she would push to reverse a decision by the Forks to change Canada Day celebrations. The event was changed after the discovery of potential unmarked graves at residential schools.
This year, there was some controversy about whether or not we should celebrate Canada Day. And I'm a proud Canadian, and I love my country, and I love my country unconditionally. It's the same way that I love my family.
She also promised to push the province to eliminate the Winnipeg Police Board and says she wants to put police officers on city buses. Motkaluk is one of 15 people running for mayor on October 26th. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
CBC meteorologist John Sauder joins us now on another glorious, beautiful day, especially for back to school. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, pretty nice day for the kids to head back. We made it to 27 degrees this afternoon, maybe even a little bit higher in some areas. And it is going to be an extremely mild overnight period. Let me explain here. We'll start with the current conditions and see where we're at. We're at 26. Winds today have been as high as about 35, now south at 30 kilometers per hour as the pressure continues to fall slightly, now 101.5 kilopascals. Let me show you the temperatures here projected over the next 12 hours, and you can see that we are mild into the evening. Even at midnight, still 22 degrees, and then 23s overnight, according to the graph model. But I do think that just before sunrise, we may dip to about 19 here in Winnipeg. Here's a look at the current satellite. Boy, not much cloud across the province, even across the north. Now, there was some showers across the north yesterday, so a bit of a break from that today. And I say break because there's another batch of rain moving in. A low pressure system just trucking across Saskatchewan now. You can see the cloud with that and the rain on the radar. That is far enough north. Now, there's rain coming out of this cloud. We don't have radar coverage the farther north we go, but this is this low pressure system as it will move across northern Manitoba tonight. About 5 to 10 millimeters of rain, but notice that even by 7 in the morning, it looks like a lot of the rain is east of Thompson and out into the Hudson Bay region and northeast areas like God's Lake and Island Lake. And there's this cold front, a weak cold front early in the morning that may spark a bit of a shower through the Red River Valley and the rest of southern Manitoba, but again, very early in the day. As we get into the later part of the day, the cold front is off into northwestern Ontario, so afternoon showers, risk of a thunderstorm in areas like Kenora and out into Dryden, Fort Francis, and Red Lake. And then a lot of the action up to the north is often to Hudson Bay, and we're starting to see a few breaks in that cloud cover. As a matter of fact, sunshine by Friday once again. But we're in this northwesterly flow through the end of Thursday and into Friday, so temperatures will be a little bit cooler on Friday. And then in the coming days, we just have lingering scattered showers across the north and lots of sunshine across southern Manitoba. Even on into the weekend, it looks more sunny in the south than it will look in the north for sure. And there is a bit of a dip. Now, if we look at the upper level pattern, we see the big ridge, and then we see a troughing that happens and the cooler air kind of sinking down into our region for Friday. And then as we get into Saturday, Sunday, Monday, the warm air is under the ridge once again, kind of like what we saw last week. Projected daytime highs show that too. Cooler Friday, Saturday, and then a real bump in temperatures as we get into the early part of next week. Okay, winds. Need to talk about this because tomorrow is generally a windy day as we look at the morning hours. Not too bad, but very windy out to the west. And then those winds really start to pick up early on in the afternoon, gusting to 44 in Winnipeg, 59 farther to the south. I mentioned the mild night tonight. Low of 19 in Winnipeg. South winds at 20, and then west at 10 in the morning. There's your temperature, and that's our best chance for a shower. And then we do get windy in the afternoon. Still warm at 24, but it is a generally cloudy day. And then the cooler day is on Friday, a high of 19. And then we're looking at 21 Saturday in Winnipeg and 25 in the sunshine on Sunday.
The weather update is brought to you by Home Equip, your trusted local source for Pride Mobility scooters. From sales to rental and repair, our team is here to serve you.
Are you a Mulder or Scully when it comes to believing in UFOs? The mysterious flying objects are commonly reported. Sometimes it's easily explained, like a sighting of Elon Musk's Starlink satellites, but others remain a mystery. Local science writer Chris Rutowski is releasing a new book called Canada's UFOs Declassified. It's based on reports from average Canadians who claim to have seen UFOs in our skies. Chris, welcome. Can you tell us about your book?
Certainly. Well, it's a document that documents other documents. I've gone through files of the National Research Council, looked at RCMP files, files from the Canadian Air Force, and found many reports of investigations into UFOs, covering reports from coast to coast to coast. There were, for example, a nurse on Vancouver Island working at a hospital reported back in 1970 that she saw a kind of Hollywood-style flying saucer with a dome on top hovering just outside the hospital window. And she says she actually could see the pilots of whatever this was.
So sightings are a common occurrence, that it's not like a one-off here and there, hey?
No, in fact, what's interesting is that the RCMP and RCAF took these reports very, very seriously. In Canada, we have something like 750 to 1,000 UFO reports every year. And my new book documents how over the past 50 years or so, the reports were taken not only seriously, but investigated in very great detail. And we have the documentation. This is not just stories. These are actual reports and the documentation of what investigations were involved.
What is your interest and curiosity about UFOs?
Well, I think it's fascinating from many aspects. It's not just the reports and sightings themselves, although they certainly are curious, but it's the associated other stuff, like the conventions, the reports that you see on TV, the books, the magazines, the blogs, and the YouTube posts. It really says something about our fascination with life out there.
Okay. And what should someone do if they spot a possible UFO?
Well, I would say, for gosh sakes, tell someone about it. The more people we have reporting UFOs, the more we can try to understand the UFO mystery. And, try your cell phone, even though cell phones aren't great for taking photos of things in the night sky. Try it anyways, because some of this data may be very useful for understanding the UFO phenomenon.
Are there any UFO sighting trends going on at the moment?
There are some trends in that the classic Hollywood-style flying saucer seems to be gone from the literature. We went through a period of triangles, and now it's more of a light in the sky, an amorphous blob, even the so-called tic-tac that some American pilots believe they've seen. So the trends come and go, but overall the sightings remain constant.
Okay, well, I can't wait to look into your book and check it out for myself. Chris Rutowski is the author of Canada's UFOs Declassified. His book launch is happening tomorrow at 7 p.m. at McNally Robinson at Grant Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Still ahead, the Bank of Canada has raised its key lending rate by 0.75 of a percentage point. It pushes the interest rate up to 3.25%. More on what this means to many Manitobans after the break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. The Bank of Canada raised its key lending rate by 0.75 of a percentage point. It pushes the interest rate up to 3.25%. Today's hike is the fifth consecutive interest rate increase this year as the central bank moves aggressively to tackle high inflation. Nisha Patel takes a closer look at the numbers and the impact on many Canadians.
After yet another interest rate hike, some Canadians with fixed payments have peace of mind for now.
We've got some stability. We know our paychecks are paying the mortgage. We don't have the uncertainty.
We locked into a fixed rate 2 years ago, so we're fine until 2026.
But others are feeling the pain of rising rates. Kevin Tran just bought a home with a variable rate mortgage.
It sucks. Yeah, it's pretty tough for a lot of people right now.
Higher interest rates make borrowing more expensive, so they're the tool the Bank of Canada uses to get consumers to slow their spending and help bring runaway inflation under control.
All central bankers have been caught flat-footed by just how aggressive inflation has been in the last 18 months.
And while there are signs inflation may have peaked, today the central bank signaled its job isn't over. In a statement revealing, given the outlook for inflation, the policy interest rate will need to rise further, giving concerned homeowners across the country even more reason to call up mortgage brokers.
80% have zero knowledge that their payment could someday go up.
Take the example of a $500,000 mortgage. Earlier this year, a variable rate mortgage holder was likely paying less than $2,000 a month. But after the series of rate hikes we've seen since March, that borrower could be paying more than $3,000 a month.
For all those hundreds of thousands of renewals that are going to occur in 2023 and throughout the rest of this year, it is going to be a very substantial change in what they're paying.
Higher interest rates have already started to weigh on the broader economy. Residential construction has slipped and the housing market has slumped.
You're going to see declines in employment and hours worked. That's going to affect consumer spending, and that's going to affect, in turn, other sectors of the economy.
Still, the central bank is expected to press on in its efforts to rein in inflation. Most market watchers expect another interest rate hike, though perhaps a smaller one, when the central bank meets next month. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Parliament resumes in less than 2 weeks, and the Liberal cabinet is meeting in Vancouver to work on a game plan, one that will address concerns about the cost of living. David Cochran reports.
She's the Minister of Finance during a time of great financial strain, but Canadians counting on bold federal action may be disappointed.
We are going to continue to take a balanced and careful approach as we have done all of this year. So we understand that the most vulnerable in our society need to be supported.
The need is clear, the response is not, only that it will dominate the conversation at this cabinet retreat, and that as tough as things are here, others have it worse.
We have this year the strongest growth in the G7. We have this year lowest debt and deficit in the G7. And inflation is elevated in Canada, but compared to our peer countries, it's lower.
Justin Trudeau and the Liberals have been too busy saying it's better in Canada and worse everywhere else. Well, that doesn't help a family that can't afford their groceries.
On the other coast, the Liberals' political partner is getting impatient. The New Democrats have promised to support the Liberal minority government, but there are limits.
We're demanding this government put in place real supports to give people respect.
So growing pressure after a summer of heat over everything from airports, passports, and immigration applications. The failure during a third term in power to deliver on the nuts and bolts of government. Ministers insist things are getting better, but not totally settled.
Look, I've learned that throughout the COVID pandemic it's very difficult to make a prediction. I just want to re-emphasize that our government is focused on doing everything we can, on working with our partners to ease the situation.
The political pressure will increase this weekend when the Conservatives select their new leader. A jolt of renewal for the opposition as the government grapples with the biggest cost of living crisis in a generation. David Cochran, CBC News, Vancouver.
More than 6 months into the Russian war on Ukraine, casualties are mounting for both sides. Heavy fighting is being reported on 3 fronts: in the north near Kharkiv, in the east in the Donbass, and in the south in Kherson region, where Ukrainian forces have mounted a counter-offensive to try to retake territory now occupied by Russian forces. CBC's Susan Ormiston reports on how local residents are coping and on their daily struggle to survive.
A barrage of rockets began this week, numbingly routine now. A medical center for babies and families was knocked out. Nothing military about it, says its director.
400 лет они так воюют.
They don't care where they hit. The main thing for them is to hit. Clearly, it's terrorism, he says. The clinic was empty overnight, so the damage is structural. But psychological too. The Russian message to Mykolaiv: we can hurt you. Maria and her son strap on a box of foodstuffs from the World Food Program. Every night there's shelling, she says, shaking my windows, my doors, and me. I can't sleep till morning. She's afraid for her kids, but she's stayed, still hopeful. I still think our boys, the soldiers, sons and fathers, will defend, so I won't go anywhere. In the city center, water pipes are torn apart, so potable water means a daily fill-up. Sergei counts out the liters for cooking, drinking, and the toilet, just for one day. It's war. It's unrestrained, he says. They're not human. Those who've stayed are adapting, lining up patiently for hours for one hot takeaway meal every day. With the front close and a Ukrainian offensive restarted about 10 days ago, blood is urgently needed. But the military shrouds its results and is enforcing sweeping restrictions on battlefield reporting. This is the southern territory that Ukraine is trying to protect. We're about halfway between Mykolaiv and Kherson, occupied by the Russians since March. The front line is to the south here, and this is a pretty active area for shelling still. To the northeast, Alexei's got his crop off and will start sowing a new one next week. Ukrainians chased the Russians out of here in the spring, but the battle is close.
Just over here.
Yesterday, 4 explosions were over there, 2 incoming. But he says our boys are holding their positions. You have to believe in the Ukrainian military. He does, like most we've spoken to. But nothing is settled here in the embattled south. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Mykolaiv, Ukraine.
A woman in Newfoundland has taken on an emotional and demanding project. She's bringing dignity back for the dead by repairing damaged graves. It started when she visited her grandmother's grave after a long absence. Now she and her colleagues have restored hundreds. Freelance reporter Leila Baudouin has the story.
Rubbing mud on it so we can pick the lettering out on the headstone.
Meet Jackie Plowman. She recently moved home from Ontario and was visiting her grandmother's grave when she discovered a series of badly beaten and broken grave sites at the Interfaith Cemetery.
It looked so bad after this winter, like it was a brutal winter.
Trim down the sides, try to make it look decent.
With the snow that we had and toppled everything over, and it looked so bad.
After a few phone calls, she learned fixing the dozens of broken headstones, unmarked and grown over graves, was the family's responsibility. A tough situation for loved ones, many who were no longer living in the area or who did not have the means to restore their family's resting place.
I see the probably in the land there, maybe.
But Plowman wasn't backing down. Since spring, she's been repairing those graves alongside her husband, Rodney Warren, and volunteers like Russell Hines, restoring the graveyard one headstone at a time.
A little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Just thinking about some of the headstones, the war memorial headstones that are here that are in such hard shape. They've been here for probably 50 years, and the way they've been tipped and buried and broke off, and you know, they deserve better than that.
They've repaired over 400 graves, fixing broken headstones, repairing crosses, identifying unmarked or indistinguishable resting places, giving dignity back to the deceased, a sense of peace for their loved ones.
I think it's wonderful. It needed to be done.
Elizabeth Gould's nephew Trevor died at just 7 days old from a heart condition. Baby Trevor's grave is among those Plowman and her team fixed up. She's received over $8,000 from locals and families living abroad, which goes towards things like gravel, sod, shovels, paint, and wood.
My God, great support. We had widows contacting us, and they never had nobody to fix their husband's headstones, and they were so grateful, crying.
With no signs of slowing down, Plowman has made it her mission to fix each and every damaged grave in the area. Layla Baudouin, CBC News, Port au Choix.
Still ahead, John Sauder is in next with his look at the Manitoba forecast. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.